Welcome to Unfiltered Finance. If you're tired of the financial illusions and ready for the brutal math, you are in exactly the right place. Let's dive in. Look at the American dream. A white picket fence, a $600,000 suburban house, and a historically low 3% mortgage locked in during the 2021 pandemic boom. Sounds perfect, right? But here is the brutal, unspoken truth of Wall Street. That 3% mortgage isn't a gift. It is a pair of golden handcuffs. Right now, millions of Millennials and Gen Zs are trapped in a phenomenon known as being house poor. On paper, their net worth looks fantastic. In reality, they are one medical emergency away from financial ruin. Why? Because you cannot chip a brick off your fireplace to buy groceries at Walmart. While retail investors are pouring 80% of their life savings into a single illiquid asset, giant institutional funds like BlackRock and Blackstone's Invitation Homes have spent billions buying up single-family homes. Society tells you that renting is just throwing money away, but the brutal mathematics of finance tell a completely different story. Today, we are going to tear down the greatest financial illusion of the middle class. We will prove why renting, combined with disciplined index fund investing, can actually make you millions of dollars richer than buying. Welcome to the Liquidity Trap. Let's define liquidity. In finance, liquidity is the speed at which you can convert an asset into cash without taking a massive loss. Cash is 100% liquid. S&P 500 index funds can be liquidated in a matter of milliseconds. But a house? A house is a giant block of concrete holding your cash hostage. Consider the 2008 global financial crisis. When Lehman Brothers collapsed in September 2008, wiping out $619 billion, unemployment skyrocketed to 10%. People needed cash, fast. But selling a house takes months, requires a 6% broker commission, and in a crash, buyers disappear. Homeowners were trapped in negative equity, meaning they owed more than the house was worth. Meanwhile, a renter who had diligently dollar-cost averaged into Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF, even during the crash, had immediate access to capital. They could click a button, take a 30% hit if necessary, but survive. Real estate forces concentration risk. You are betting your entire financial future on the economic health of one specific zip code. If the local factory closes or property taxes spike, your net worth plummets. But if I rent, I'm paying my landlord's mortgage. This is the most dangerous phrase in personal finance. Let's look at the actual math using the 5% rule, developed by financial analyst Ben Felix. Owning a home comes with massive unrecoverable costs, true sunk costs that you never get back. Just like rent. First, property taxes. In states like Texas or New Jersey, this is easily 1.5% to 2% of the home's value every single year. Second, maintenance costs. The rule of thumb is 1% per year. Roofs, HVAC systems, and plumbing don't care about your budget. Third, the cost of capital. This includes the interest you pay the bank. Even at 3%, over 30 years, you are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars just to borrow money. Add these up, and the unrecoverable cost of homeownership is roughly 5% of the property's value annually. So, if you buy a $500,000 house, you are throwing away $25,000 a year in taxes, interest, and maintenance. That is your invisible rent paid to the bank and the government. The ultimate wealth killer isn't the property tax, it's opportunity cost. When you buy that $500,000 house, you typically need a 20% down payment. That's $100,000 in cash, instantly vaporized from your liquid portfolio. What if, instead of locking that $100,000 into drywall and bricks, you remained a renter and invested it into a broad market index fund like the S&P 500? Historically, the U.S. stock market has returned an annualized average of about 10% before inflation. Thanks to the magic of compound interest, that $100,000, growing at 8% conservatively for 30 years, without adding another penny, becomes over $1 million. And it's completely liquid. You don't have to fix its toilet. You don't pay property taxes on it until you sell. And you don't pay a 6% realtor fee to liquidate it. The math gets even wilder when you take the monthly difference between an expensive mortgage and cheaper rent, and systematically dollar-cost average that surplus into the market. But wait, if buying a house is so mathematically flawed, why are Wall Street titans like BlackRock, State Street, and Blackstone buying up entire neighborhoods. In 2021, institutional investors accounted for nearly 1 in 4 single-family home purchases in the US. People assume, if the billionaires are buying, I should too. This is a fatal misunderstanding of institutional finance. Institutions separate utility from investment. When a private equity firm buys 10,000 houses, they are not putting 80% of their portfolio into one neighborhood. They are achieving massive geographic diversification. More importantly, they have access to near zero cost of capital. They issue corporate bonds at 1.5% interest, buy a house in cash, and rent it to you at a 6% yield. That is a pure arbitrage play. A retail investor taking out a 30-year mortgage at 7% to buy. The house they actually live in is not executing a Wall Street strategy. They are simply taking on massive, concentrated debt. Let's dissect the mortgage itself. The banking system uses a beautiful mathematical weapon called amortization. Most people think if they have a $3,000 monthly mortgage, a big chunk goes to paying down the principal. Wrong. In the first 10 years of a standard 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, your payments are heavily front-loaded with interest. On a 7% mortgage, almost 80% of your early payments go straight to the bank's profit sheet. You are barely building any equity. You are essentially renting the money from the bank. And statistically, the average American moves or refinances every 7 to 10 years. This means they reset the amortization clock over and over again, constantly paying maximum interest and never reaching the equity building phase. The bank wins every time. You take all the risk of a market crash. The bank gets a guaranteed yield. And if you fail, they seize the collateral. So why do we still view renting as a failure? Welcome to behavioral finance. The human brain is terrible at calculating opportunity costs, but it loves physical, tangible assets. Buying a house satisfies our primal need for territory and status. We fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. Furthermore, society ignores lifestyle creep. When you buy a house, you don't just pay the mortgage. You buy riding lawnmowers, expensive furniture, and renovate kitchens to impress neighbors you don't even like. This is the H.E.N.R.Y trap. High earners, not rich yet. A couple making $200,000 a year can easily end up living paycheck to paycheck because their $800,000 home demands constant capital injections. A renter, paradoxically, has a capped downside. If the roof caves in, it's the landlord's problem. The renter's maximum monthly housing liability is exactly the amount on the lease. Let's build the ultimate F.I.R.E strategy: financial independence. Retire early, using the Rent and Reinvest blueprint. Step 1. Find a rental where the monthly cost is significantly lower than owning a comparable home in the same area. In 2024, across major U.S. cities, renting is often 30 to 50% cheaper month to month than buying at current 7% interest rates. Step 2. This is the critical part. You must take that 30% difference, plus your would-be down payment, and ruthlessly invest it into low-cost ETFs. The renter's wealth formula only works if the surplus capital is deployed into income-producing assets. If you rent and spend the difference on luxury cars and vacations, the homeowner will absolutely beat you. But if you rent and buy shares of the global economy, you build a liquid, diversified fortress of wealth that no housing crash can destroy. We live in the most dynamic economic era in human history. The ability to move for a 50% pay raise, to relocate to a cheaper tax state, or to start a business is the ultimate currency. Homeownership severely limits this mobility. A house is a physical anchor. If you get a dream job offer across the country, selling a house takes months and costs thousands in closing fees. A renter simply breaks a lease, pays a small penalty, and boards a flight. In a rapidly changing job market driven by AI and remote work, being physically tied to one location is a massive strategic disadvantage. You are sacrificing global opportunity for local stability. True wealth isn't just a high net worth on paper. It's the freedom to deploy your time and capital exactly how and where you want, instantly. Buying a house is not inherently evil. It is a wonderful lifestyle choice if you want to paint the walls, adopt 3 dogs, and stay in one place for 20 years. But it is a lifestyle choice, not a foolproof financial investment. The 3% mortgage trap proved that cheap debt can lock you into a life you no longer want, simply because you can't afford to give up the rate. Don't let society pressure you into buying a concrete box just to feel successful. Renting is not throwing money away. It is buying flexibility, capping your liabilities, and freeing up capital to invest in the greatest wealth creation machine in history, the global stock market. The math is clear. Now, the choice is yours. This video is for informational and educational purposes only, not financial advice. All investing carries risk of loss. Do your own research and consult a licensed financial advisor before making decisions.